Thank you, Harry, for having me this morning. I'm here back at my alma mater, St. Michael's Institution, Ipoh, where I spent 11 years of my life as a student and 8 years of my life as principal of my very own school. I am a very simple, ordinary Ipoh boy. I was born at 30 Jalan Connolly, about 2 kilometers from here. And I remember that in my school days, I used to walk from 30 Connolly Road and Sungai Pari Road across the railway lines to come to St. Michael's. The railways are just behind where I'm seated today, about 2 kilometers from here. And the railway story is intimately connected with my life because my ancestors, my grandparents, my uncles, they all worked in the Malayan railways and they traced their roots through 3 generations back to Pondicherry in India. Most of them came from Pondicherry, a French colony in India at that time, and they came here to service the Malayan railways as station masters, clerks, signalmen. Those were my relatives, my uncles, as well as my father marginally. Now that is a bit of my story. As I was here at St. Michael's, as I said, for 11 years, except for a 2-year break in 1962-63, when my father was transferred to Teluk Intan, to the land office. And there I studied at a fraternal school of St. Michael's, that is St. Anthony's, Teluk Intan. That briefly sums up my life story as a student and briefly as a principal of St. Michael's. First of all, I must emphasize that whatever comes under the heading of achievements, it should not be attributed to me alone. There was a magnificent team of administrators here at St. Michael's before me and during my time. It is with them that I accomplished whatever I was able to do during the 8 years of my tenure at St. Michael's. Broadly, there were two areas of achievement. Infrastructural. When I first came to the school, despite the school's magnificence and its great name, there were flaws, physical flaws, which needed to be addressed. These were the condition of the road, the service road into the school. It was in a state of great disrepair. There were potholes, there were patches which invited floods during rainy days. All these had to be done. And thanks to the support of the Ahli Makhota Association, led by Mr. Adrian Sen, the president, we layered all the roads in the school with the pavers which you see today. The entrance road, the service roads are all covered very well with pavers. There's no more flooding and the road is very, very serviceable. Now that's the road. Now when I first came to the school, I also saw the students running in the rain from the gate when they are dropped by the buses and by their parents and cars at the main road, Jalan Clayton, now Jalan Sinibasagam. They had to run all the way in the rain for about, let us say, around 400 meters run. That perhaps explains why St. Michael's did very well in athletics in those years. But to mitigate that problem, we built the covered pathway. That was the second major infrastructural improvement in the school, and I give thanks to the PIBG under Dato Sri Dashan Singh Gill at that time for having sponsored the the new covered pathway for the school. Now those are two major infrastructural improvements, plus there was a third. St. Michael's was a school of a double session, the morning session for the upper classes and the afternoon session for Form 1, Form 2. Now, the afternoon students would usually arrive around 12 in the afternoon. They have to wait till 1:30 for the dismissal of the morning session. Now, in the meantime, they used to have a great gala time in the school canteen, chatting. They're very good at talking. St. Michael's has produced great speakers and debaters. So you could see all of these debating skills in the school canteen. Can you imagine 800 young guys in Form 1, Form 2 in a space of just a few, let us say, square yards, creating the Tower of Babel on earth. Now, many of the morning session teachers expressed their worries that this was affecting the audibility level of teachers in their classes. So a new venue had to be created for the afternoon session, and this is you see in the background, there is a pavilion. This is the pavilion built by the Old Michaelians Association again during my time, and this again was thanks to the leadership of Mr. Adrian Sen. And fittingly, this pavilion would house the afternoon session while they are waiting for the dismissal of the morning. And it has been fittingly named the Adrian Sen Pavilion in honor of the president of the Old Michaelians Association, Mr. Adrian Sen. Now, those are the three major infrastructural projects. What about the culture of the school? St. Michael's has a very powerful ethos as a Lassallean institution, but only the elite in the school, as the years went by, only the elite among the teachers plus the elite among the students, that is the sixth form, the prefectorial board, they could understand and appreciate the ethos of the school. This is where Brother Vincent inspired me to give a sharper focus to the ideology of the school. What is the meaning of the Michaelian spirit? Who was St. Michael? What does the name Michael stand for? We went very deep in terms of education of the entire staff and the students. During my time, this was a priority, that is, the dissemination of the Michaelian spirit. In three words, it was summed up as faith, zeal, and service. The Michaelian ethos was summed up in these three words: faith, meaning faith in God. Whatever our religion, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sikhism, we were all children of God. This is what the students were made to feel in the school. The second principle, zeal, doing our very best in what we have chosen to do. That applied not only to our studies, it applied to our sports, our co-curricular activities, and in one particular area, that is caring for the lost, and the least. This was never meant to be a school for the elite. This was never meant to be a school for just the super rich. It was a school for everyone, from the poorest of the poor to those from well-to-do families. And there is a special concern in our school that we must care for the underprivileged. We must care for the last, the least, and the lost. That philosophy was strongly re-imbued during my time among all ranks of Michaelians. And the third principle of our Michaelian ethos, beginning with faith, zeal, the third was service. There is no point in education without a spirit of service. What is the purpose of education? It is not simply to know more and to have more, but to be more. B-E, to be more, to be a better child to your parents, a better citizen of Malaysia, a better leader in your field of work. So we summed up the Michaelian philosophy in these 3 words. Once again, faith, zeal, service. That is the framework for life which we gave our students, and it remains strong to this day. This is a follow-up to our earlier exploration of the Michaelian spirit. We summed up the Michaelian spirit in those 3 words: faith, zeal, and service. These words inspire us in every field of endeavor, and I begin with academics. How does the Michaelian spirit translate into our academics? The second principle of the Michaelian spirit is zeal. We will apply ourselves as students, as teachers, with passion to the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of truth. But we will not, as I explained earlier, seek knowledge for the acquisition of mere material comforts, the extension of our wealth and our income. All these are important. They are necessary in life, but we hope that education will take us beyond that. That is, to be more. We, as I said earlier, we seek to know more in order to be more, to be more worthy children of our parents, more faithful and loyal citizens of Malaysia, our beloved homeland, more dedicated, honest, and sincere leaders in whatever field of work we choose. So that is the driving force for us in academics and in professional achievement. Now, the second principle covers values. Faith was first. Second principle is covered by faith. The first principle. Now, if you walk around St. Michael's, you will see 2 badges, 2 logos. One is the logo of St. Michael's itself. That we will come to at a later stage of our exploration. I will talk about the second. The name of the second logo is Signum Fidei. It relates to faith. Signum Fidei is faith. It means a living sign of faith. In Latin, those words mean a living sign of faith. This is the end product of our Michaelian education. In ethics, every Michaelian aspires to be a living sign of his faith. Signum Fidei. What does that mean? It means if you are a Muslim, you will be a true and sincere practitioner of Islam. If you are a Christian, you will practice the true teachings of Jesus, that is, love one another. Love, spread love and care and compassion in this world. That is the test of Signum Fidei. If you are a Buddhist, you will practice true Buddhist moderation, reverence for life. If you are a Hindu, you will believe in God. You will believe that destiny does play a part in our life, and you will practice it sincerely. You will be a living sign of your faith. This is the mission of St. Michael's and of all Lasallian schools in the world. Signum Fidei. Each student to be a living sign of his faith. The third principle of the Michaelian spirit is service, and this is incorporated in our school mission. That is, every class in the school must have a service outreach. Every co-curricular unit must have a service outreach, and we have said it must be a minimum of 2 per year. If you take a class in our school calendar, every class under its form teacher must plan a charity or service outreach program. Every class, they must work together to carry this out. For example, this can be a visit to an orphanage. And all the resources must come from the class, from their own pocket money or from their parents. The form teacher and the class will arrange for the children to meet at the orphanage, or if they can afford it, pay for a bus to take them all there. And they will have a program for a day. This is just a simple example. Every class in St. Michael's during my time, for those 8 years, was required to do 2 simple acts of community outreach. The same applied to the prefects board, the St. John's ambulance, the football team, the rugby team. They were not just there for rugby and football alone. They must pause 2 times a year for a simple community service action. The footballers can go to a underprivileged school to help train the primary school football team for a few sessions. They all meet with the permission of the Guru Besar, the head teacher. They meet at that school, or they bring those children here, get those children to come to St. Michael's, and they have a football competition for them. It is something done for others. So this spirit was infused in all the classes, in all the organs of the school. A community service outreach on a simple level. Now more well-resourced groups like the prefectorial board were able to do things on a bigger scale. Right, for example, organizing tuition classes for weak students within the school. They may not need to go out, but within the school. They helped weaker students in maths, in English, that is, weaker students in Form 1, Form 2, according to the level of their capability. So this spirit of service permeated the entire school. I have served at 5 schools, beginning with Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman Ipoh, where I was an English language teacher and head of English for 18 years. And then I went on to Iskandar Shah Parid as senior assistant in charge of student affairs for 2 years, followed by a stint as the afternoon supervisor at SMJKC Ching Chung, Sungai Siput, followed by SMK Jalan Pasir Puteh, again as afternoon supervisor for 2 years. Then came my first appointment as principal, that is at St. Anthony's, Telok Intan, followed by St. Michael's, where I served for 8 years until I reached the age of retirement in the government service. Thereafter, I joined the private sector. I was the pioneer principal of SM10B, 10B secondary school for the Malaysian stream. The secondary school for the international stream was already in existence, but I added the Malaysian wing to the 10B secondary, and I also was the pioneer of setting up the 6th form at 10B International School. That was an international adjunct which I was in charge of. Now, over the years, I would say for a principal to innovate is not easy within the government system. There's greater scope and latitude for the school leader to innovate in the context of a private school. That is my general observation. Nevertheless, at St. Michael's, if I take St. Michael's as an example, we were able to bring innovation to the school in 3 key areas. I will start with IT. St. Michael's was one of the first schools in Malaysia to introduce IT education in Form 4 and Form 5 as a subject. Computer studies was introduced for Form 4 and Form 5 as an examination subject. Now the PIBG gave its support to set up the necessary computer and IT facilities. In fact, St. Michael's was the first school in Perak, together with Sultan Yusof Batu Gajah, to set up the IT class. that is as an examinable subject in the SPM. Approval was given for these two schools, our schools and Michael's and Sultan Yusof Batu Gajah. We were the pilot schools in the project extension, IT extension project by the education department. Now that continues to this day. St. Michael's is one of the strongest schools for its IT option for students. Now, we went beyond that. We took a step further to introduce computer studies for Form 6. We were one of the first schools in Malaysia. In fact, the only school in Perak, the first school in Perak to introduce computer studies as a subject for the 6th form, for the STPM. And St. Michael's remains one of the strongholds of computer studies for the 6th form in Malaysia. It set up the prototype project under Puan Leelawati, and on another third front under Cikgu Zahari, St. Michael's introduced engineering drawing, which was only offered in vocational schools. This is the aim of all this was to diversify the learning experience and to cater to students with different preferences and aptitudes. So we were able to broaden the appeal of education to our students by introducing these innovations. And I think these are steps which paid off handsomely in terms of better student commitment to learning. Now, I have to thank Wan Leela for the great step forward in computer studies, Cikgu Zahari in engineering drawing. Now, going on to my thoughts on innovation itself. St. Michael's is a school in very high demand, like many other schools. It is very difficult to reduce enrollment. So in a typical class in St. Michael's in the 1990s, when I was principal, a class would have easily 40 students, some with 45 students. The physical face of the class was not enough classroom. The classroom is only designed for about 25 students, but 45 people were crammed into the classroom. In Form 6, there were about 60 students in one class session. Now, this is no ordinary challenge for the teacher. Over the years, as I moved from school to school, I saw something very successful at 10B. It was the first school where I saw the inner infrastructure of the classroom was different. Students no longer sat in rows facing the teacher, 40 pairs of eyes on the teacher, the sage on the stage. No. There were about 5 or 6 tables within the classroom, square tables. 4 students were seated at each table, facing themselves, facing each other. This is the setup for a true activity-centered, project-centered learning. And I think all our national schools in Malaysia, in our educational reform, we must move towards that, to make sure that in a class there is not more than 25 students in a classroom. And secondly, that the students are seated not as in parliament, facing one speaker. No, they must be seated in working groups. And the teacher can always vary the groups according to different subjects. These are not permanent seating places. So the class must be redesigned to allow group work. At the moment, our classes are all designed for mass focus on one teacher. Right, this is, I think, the major interest. This is a very simple move. It doesn't involve much cost, but it will transform the quality of education in our country. Thank you, Harry, for inviting me to answer this very stimulating, challenging, and life-changing question for me and for many who have had the Shakespearean experience. I'm very fortunate that my parents sent me to St. Michael's at a time when St. Michael's was the hub of drama. ACS Ipoh was another hub of drama. These two schools, I would say, in the 1960s and even in later years, were among the greatest crucibles of drama, and Shakespearean drama was included in this menu. For me, personally, I was very fortunate that I had a chance to study literature, which was the rocket which propelled me in my professional life as an English teacher, as a principal, as a public speaker, as a debate trainer. My roots go back to the training in the drama, which I received here at St. Michael's. And St. Michael's was certainly exceptional in the context of many schools, in that when we were in Form 4 and Form 5, all students had to study literature for the MCE. Whether you are in the science stream or art stream, literature was compulsory. And that has made a great difference to the quality and caliber of scientists and engineers who came from St. Michael's. If you take any scientist or engineer or lab person who has been educated in the Michaelian tradition, you will find that they are more cultivated, I would even say more civilized. Now, I don't like to compare with others, non-literature people, but in some way, they have a finer moral and cultural caliber and a more humane attunement to the challenges of life. Now, I studied literature, Merchant of Venice in St. Michael's, and that was the first. But apart from the Merchant of Venice, we also studied drama, George Bernard Shaw, St. John. We studied Terence Rattigan, all of these, and we produced the plays. In St. Michael's, it was a tradition for the Form 4 and Form 5 to produce the play over 3 nights for all our parents and for public attendance. So this is where the drama tradition was attached to the learning tradition. It was not something, an adjunct which you do outside your learning sphere. It was integrated. A lot of the drama practices emanated from the classroom. And the great drama teachers, of course, were Brother Casimir, Mr. Koo K. Hock, Mr. Almeida, Mr. Eric Gomez, and so many others. Of course, with Brother Paul as an inspiring father figure of the drama. Now, this drama gave us not only acting experience, it gave us greater stage confidence, public speaking ability, and most important of all, it gave us a passion for reading, of literature, for life. A great world of literature awaits us. If the school doesn't give people the keys, you are denying them the chance to travel for life. You don't have to go anywhere in the world. If you are a man of literature, you can be in your room and explore a whole world, past, present, and future. Now that is the richness, greater than gold or jewels, that my school has given me. And it has served me faithfully in all the lines of work I have done, as a debate trainer, as a teacher, as a counselor. I don't think I would have been so well prepared if not for the foundation in drama. My teachers don't need to be with me here today. I can guide myself through my access, through my love for learning, through my love for literature. And I can rightly say that there are many people like me who have been made by literature to be, in some sense, more capable of creating happiness for myself and for others. Now that is just what literature can do. Now, right, Now, I think I have summed up adequately what literature has done for me, and indirectly I am speaking to all those who who seek. It is very sad that literature is a diminishing subject in our schools. It's very sad that in our universities we are getting people who are going to university to study who have no literature background, but they aspire to be teachers of English. It is a sad fact, and I think this is something which our future educational planners must address if they are to truly make Malaysia a country which prepares young people for global citizenship. I've been asked to comment on the words from Hamlet, to be or not to be. Now, of course, in the context of Hamlet, the person in the story, the protagonist, is asking whether I should live or I should die. It's actually a suicidal question, to be or not to be. But then today we don't have to put it in such a negative context. We should put ourselves into the context of decision making, to go forward or to retreat or do nothing. I think this way I can bring in the Michaelian badge. Michaelian badge shows Michael the archangel. It doesn't show it is St. Michael's, but it has the sword of justice. Sword of justice. In other words, to be or not to be, to do something or not to do something depends on our ethical values, our ethical formation. And in St. Michael's, we say we will stand for right, for what is just, what is humane, what is true, rather than for falsehood, for injustice, for exploitation. It is the struggle between good and evil. The Michaelian mission is to stand for what is right and just in this world. So even in the context of decision making, to be or not to be, to do or to desist, I think ethical formation, the formation of a conscience in our students, is the most vital part of education. I ask myself this question: what has made me passionate about English, literature, history, politics? What has made me full of fire? What has lighted the flame in my heart? I think that term is very important in education. If a teacher cannot inflame his students with a burning desire to learn in some way, maybe not in all the subjects, in some subjects the process has begun. And in my own life, I attribute my passion for learning to the charisma of my teachers. I can narrow it down. In my whole school life, there are many teachers who have contributed to my education, but in particular, who has inspired this passion for teaching English, for learning English, for aspiring to master my field. It's my teacher, Brother Casimir. He was my literature master. He was my drama trainer, director and coach. Mr. Eric Gomez, my debate trainer. He was a master of the art of rebuttal, and he made me aware of how to improve myself. And of course, there's Brother Damien Oliver in Teluk Intan, who was a great public speaker, a magnetic public speaker, and I aspired to speak like him one day. And there's no substitute for inspiring teachers. They can be hopefully within a school. They must be there in every family, from the parents, the brothers and sisters. They can be the inspiration. I think for many people who are successful learners, self-driven learners, this passion comes from the role models who have inspired them. And do we have teachers who are role models? We must have. So we must be very selective. It's not possible to find a charisma in every teacher. And it's not possible to create charisma. But we can hope that in our Malaysian school system, there will be young people with charisma, elderly people with charisma to inspire our young. Now, what are the initiatives which should be promoted to promote intellectual curiosity? I think if you summarize the formula in education, what makes a subject appealing to young people, I think it is the right activities which are allied with that subject. For me, it was debating from the age of Form 4 and Form 5. I was immersed in debating. In fact, sadly, to the extent I neglected my other subjects like maths. That should not happen with other, you must have balance. But I went very, very far ahead in my learning. I knew that to be a good debater, you must have very good general knowledge. I read the papers every day. And I used to go to the Tun Razak library to access books from all over the world. When I was in Form 4, I read the biographies of all. Today all this is available on the internet. But in those days, I was a self-driven learner because I wanted to excel in my debating, and that is allied to English. So what I am trying to say is that you must find the right activities to motivate and inspire your students to learn the subject through the right activities. And among the activities I have seen in schools where I have served, I can put there debates, drama. If a school doesn't have debates and drama, it is missing a vital element in the menu for creating people with passion in the field of language. STEM Fest. Does your school have STEM Fest? I never participated in a STEM in my life, but I observed the passion, the zest with which young people work together in groups of 3 or 4 to produce a project for an exhibition. And they took great pleasure in explaining it to visitors. What were the objectives? What were the observations? What are their findings? What are the applications of this idea? So this is the essence of education, and we must see it. Study trips, guest speakers invited to the classroom, not just to the school for the assembly, to the classroom. If we get an old boy who is an engineer to talk about some engineering projects he has done to a class, now that will be a tremendous application of physics. Now this is very important. Book learning, well, it's good, but it's sterile. It will only appeal to the bookworms. For people with multiple intelligence abilities, you have to find the activities. If you are teaching a subject without support activities, extension activities, now you are a voice crying in the desert. On my list here, I have at least 6 qualities. 6 qualities. I begin with the first, which relates back to the Michaelian spirit. It is found also in our Rukun Negara, belief in God, a faith base. My first quality a student should have, he must have a faith base. This can be a religion, it can be also principles which the parents have inculcated in their children if they are not attached to any religion. A child must have a faith base of values. In other words, there must be a foundation of values in the family. That is the key point. No amount of learning after the first 6 years, they say, can matter so much. I think the first 6 years are very important. Now, if a child comes with a defective or an absent, a non-existent faith base in the later years, well, a lot of compensatory work will be needed. Faith base is my first quality. Now, the second quality which I'd say, or skill, which is very, very important is mastery of languages. English, Bahasa Melayu, Tamil, Chinese, people are learning German. So, in the new educational landscape, we cannot just have a exclusive diet of just Malay and English. We must go beyond Bahasa Melayu, we must go beyond English. In Malaysia, we can easily embrace Tamil and Chinese. I would even put Hindi on the list because these are the countries with the nearest markets to us, India and China. Plus, I will put Spanish on the list. The whole of South America is open to you. German, for higher education, Germany will be a key player in the future. Why not start learning German from an early age? So we must have a new approach on language. We must encourage people to take as many languages as possible along the learning process. And then we will create global players. Malaysians will be working in Germany, they will be working in South America, they will all be enriching our country financially and culturally. Because from experience we can see, we already lived after Merdeka for nearly coming up to 70 years. Many Malaysians have migrated. Have they lost their roots, I ask you? 99% of them still have their roots in Malaysia. At one time, when you migrated to another country, some people accused you of disloyalty to Malaysia. Now the thinking is different. The more people we have outside, look at Indonesia and the Philippines. The country's economy depends on the Indonesians working outside Indonesia. The Philippines' economy depends on the Filipinos sending their funds back to the Philippines, improving their quality of life. So that is the way to go in the future. So I would say that we are very lucky in Malaysia because we have a strong English base, a Malay base. Plus we have the potential to exploit to advantage our Chinese, knowledge of Chinese, our knowledge of Tamil. Perhaps in India there are 60 million Tamils, right there. That is a huge market for many Tamil related products which can be produced in Malaysia, right there. Lingam's curry powder is popular all over the world. Can you imagine Tamil Nadu buying Lingam, not supplying Lingam's powder to us? Our Lingam is Mahalingam. It is high class Lingam, which is in demand. So I am saying that the more languages you learn, the stronger you will be in the coming world. Now, point 1 was faith-based. Point 2, mastery of languages. Point 3, a zest for maths and computer science. These have to be combined. The research in the world shows that the people who are doing very well at computer mastery, at computer software, creation of computer hardware, their roots are in maths. So in the whole secondary school, if a person spends more time studying maths, he will make a better computer scientist in the future than the guy who starts studying game playing or computer software, all of these, or even studying coding at an early stage without building his maths. That is a mistake. We must invest in maths. India is doing very well in IT because of their investment in maths. You take any IT expert from India, from Karnataka, from Bangalore, they are experts in maths first. So this is the lesson for Malaysia. We have to invest. Singapore knows it, and Singapore is investing more effort in building up their maths. But maths is a very difficult subject to make people in. Most maths teachers have only been delivering maths. They don't have the passion of the English teachers, sadly. That's my experience. Passion of the literature or drama teachers. They must teach maths in a way which will make people very interested and self-driven in the field. That is the challenge facing maths education anywhere in the world. Now, I've spoken about maths. On to point 4. What matters for students? They must have interactive skills. No man is an island. The student must participate in sports. He must, from a young age, parents must make them not just play in the private club, but go out in the field, mix with the rough and tumble of sports. That is a very good way of training them in interactive skills. They must join a co-curricular unit in school, learn to work with others. Now that is a very important skill. It is part of leadership training. Now, interactive skills, a spirit of service. We come back to the third Michaelian principle, service. A spirit of service must be imbued in young people from a very early age. This must come from the home, it must come from the school. If it doesn't come from the home, if it doesn't come from the schools, it is unlikely that a child will get this from heaven or from God. God has to work through the school, through the teachers, has to work through the parents. So this spirit of service is a vital attribute for any person who is destined for success in life. And finally, after having all of these, faith in God, mastery of languages, a zest for maths and zest for computer skills, interactive skills, spirit of service, people can still fail even with all that. Why, you might ask me? I will give you examples. There are many people who have gone through all these experiences, but they have, after getting the degree, they are retreating into the quiet of their room. They lock themselves up in their room. They don't relate to others. Loneliness, self-alienation, all these psychological disorders are increasing in the world today. And in that time, these guys have no friends. No friends who come and visit them. Not even friends who call them, hey, come on, Louis, let's go out for some food outside, or let's go for a park. They have withdrawn, retreated. The number of people who are retreating into themselves. So this is where the social safety net must be developed from a young age. Make sure your children have regular friends, good friends who will visit them and whom they will go out. Give them time to build up their social safety network outside. So I think these are the 6 vital areas I would stress to teachers and parents. The first comment I would like to make is that schools like St. Michael's, mission schools, where you have good numbers of children of various races coming together, students of all religions coming together. Traditionally, this has been the character of mission schools. These are our national assets. These are our national assets which we cannot afford to lose. These schools have produced some of the best Malaysian leaders, and if we do not support the mission schools to retain their multiracial, multi-faith character, we will lose something more valuable than any amount of foreign investment or development in our country. Now, this school, St. Michael's, is just an example. Who are the people who were educated at St. Michael's and went on to lead our country in an exemplary way? We start with Tan Sri Lee Loy Sing, founder of Taiko Plantations, one of the great corporate czars. He came from a very humble family, from a lower middle class family. He was almost a dropout after the war, but he was transformed by his education at St. Michael's. He became a key player in the Malaysian economy, and wherever he went, he was very particular as a Malaysian to be inclusive, to include Malaysians of all races in his board of management, at the level of middle management, and in the labor force. He was very good with, he's a Malaysian Chinese, but is greatly admired by Malaysian Malays, Malaysian Indians. He took particular interest in all of them. Now that is Lee Loy Sing, just one example of a young man molded in this multiracial setting. Now, second, Dr. Lim Keng Ek, Gerakan Rakyat President, another campaigner for multiracialism in Malaysia, a strong voice always for multi-faith tradition of our country. Equally, Mr. John TV, many of the members of MIC don't know that the founder of the MIC was educated in this school. The founder president of MIC Malaysia, Malaysian Indian Congress, was a young man from our school, John TV. He was appointed by Bapa Malaysia as the first ambassador to Italy, to Rome. But he retired as president of the Malaysian Indian Congress. IGP Tan Sri Abdul Rahman from the Malays. He rose to the highest police post in our country because he stood by all his career by the principles of St. Michael's. That is, stand for what is right and what is just. Be a force for good, for law and order in our country. He rose to the highest ranks, and there are many others like him. Dato Dr. Husni Hanadzala, one of the jewels who emerged as a jewel of honesty in the Satu MDB scandal in our country. He was one of the honest politicians who gave up his political post to tell the truth. Now, such a person came from St. Michael's. We believe his values came from his religious faith as a Muslim and also from the love he had for his teachers, among them the late Brother Paul, whom he revered. Haji Husni Hanadzala revered his principal, Brother Paul, and his teachers. Now, I will talk about a girl who came to this school from Batu Gajah Convent. Her name I will divulge afterwards. She became one of the first heart surgeons. She respects Brother Paul and the missionaries who taught in this school. She is a Muslim, but these are the people who bridge the gap between religions in this world. That person who became the heart surgeon is Dato Dr. Robaya, Dr. from Batu Gajah Convent. She studied in Form 6 in our school, and she is a Michaelian, ever proud to stand for what is right. Now, we turn to the issue of discipline. What was, I won't say my approach, I would say the Michaelian approach, the Lassallean approach to discipline management. First, we must know that not everybody on earth is an angel. All of us have something angelic. We also have something of the devil in us. Right, eh? I would put it as 50% for me. 50% angel, 50% devil. Always a struggle. That is like St. Michael. Struggle between good and evil happens in our own personal lives. Now, when we talk about discipline in my life, I use the 5% principle. Wherever you go, you will find non-conformers. If they are 5%, that is normal. That is the norm. If it is 50%, you are in trouble. You are heading a very divided organization. So everyone must be patient with people who have disciplinary problems. If you have 50% of your students causing disciplinary problems, you must take this as your normal quota for your work. Right, eh? Now, whether it's 5% or 10%, we have the faith that it can be reduced, that those who are facing disciplinary issues can be converted. Now, in Lassallean schools, we use the parable of the Good Shepherd. The principal and the teachers must have the love of the Good Shepherd for the lost sheep. These students who are causing problems, some of them may be involved in drugs, they may be playing truant, or they may be involved in juvenile gangsterism, bullying others. All of these will happen. But the key to transformation is in touching their hearts and minds. It is not in a culture of threats. It's not in a culture of punishment. Punishment there must be. I will come to that. But it mustn't be, the school mustn't have a culture of threats. For example, discipline teacher at the assembly. Every assembly warning people, threatening them with expulsion, or calling a few students up to stand in the assembly to shame them. Now all that should be avoided. Discipline should be handled quietly, not with a loud bang. Right. It must be handled quietly. Announcements can be made. Announcements can be made with due anonymity. If something really bad has happened, announcements can be made, but with discretion. But I have myself caned students. Now, the caning is done. When the caning is done, in my heart I have cried. And I have prayed for the students to have the mercy of God and to have goodness in their hearts. Now, the aftercare after caning is very important. I've never neglected the student whom I caned. I have followed up his progress and showed him that I want him to be a better person and to succeed. That is very important. The way we handle the student after punishment. Now, every student can be transformed. That is our faith. We must have that positive faith that I've always asked my discipline teachers to go back and see the movie, the French movie. The name escapes me now, but that French movie about forgiveness. Victor Hugo's movie about the escaped prisoner who is sheltered by the priest and then he steals from the priest and he's caught again by the police and brought, and the priest doesn't tell the police that these things were stolen from my church. He says no, these belong to him. The priest told a lie to save him. That touched the heart of the criminal and made him change forever. For the first time, he saw a person sacrificing for him and he changed his whole life of crime. He became a law-abiding citizen forever. Now, I think you should go. I have forgotten the title. Very famous story. My listeners should go to, I think, AI, chat box GPT, put the frame of a story and it might give you the answer. Now, to come back, we have said, how do we widen our strategy in a school to make sure the discipline problems are kept down to a manageable level, below 5%. Now, the government has a very good formula, but its implementation, I don't know how successful it is, that every student must belong. First of all, they are part of a class. In the class, the relationship, the role of the form teacher is very important in inculcating positive values in the class itself. Next, you belong to the students who belong to the Scouts, St. John's Ambulance, Red Crescent. They have a framework of values, a code of good behavior. They will learn this. Napoleon said the famous words, through obedience we learn to command. Through obedience we learn to command. So they must belong to our organization. All of them, they must. It can be the Interact Club, it can be Rakan's Muda, but make sure, and they are well guided by teachers. We don't keep changing the generals. They must be committed teachers who are well trained to infuse the philosophy of that organization among their students. Now, another strategy which has been done in many schools is to give students, especially the low flyers, low performers in academics, avenues for achievement. What avenues for achievement do they are failing all their tests. Do we give them a chance? We can only have one football team, but we can have more, definitely. Give them a chance to shine in some way. Praise them in the assembly. So they have a good name in the school. A good name is very powerful. Once we project a person's name onto the stage, he becomes a school personality. So make them all school personalities. No, not unknowns in the school who will stand behind the back and create disciplinary problems. Make them, give them a role, a useful role in the school. And of course, overall, we must reduce school size. To do that, we can't be successful in a school with 2,000 students. We can be successful in a school where there is a ceiling, ideally 500, where the principal can know the names of every student. That is the ideal. If you can know the name of a student, if a student is an unknown entity, that's where the problem comes. Very often they do something to achieve ill fame, right? So it must be small enough so that there are strong personal bonds in the school. I think I will highlight 4 important initiatives which I've been involved in over the years, not just in St. Michael's, in all our schools. I think I will emphasize the Orang Asli charity outreach from Ipoh, the schools which I have been connected with in Ipoh. We had our partnership with Orang Asli villages in Simpang Pulai, in the 18th kilometer point on the road from Ipoh to Cameron Highlands. Now, it was a very meaningful, eye-opening and uplifting experience for children, especially children who are more fortunate to see the conditions and hardships faced by the Orang Asli. Number 2, the global perspective debates, which were organized by 10B Schools Ipoh. When I was head of the 6th form, we organized the global perspectives debates. This is because Ipoh is a great debating city. The Rotary Club has organized debates for more than 70 years. ACS Ipoh, St. Michael's, Anderson, Star Ipoh have produced some of the best members of parliament and speakers, professionals in our country. And this tradition must be sustained. So I believe that the global perspectives debates which were conducted via 10B Schools Ipoh are a major contribution, and they should be supported and sustained by all schools. Third, the Shakespearean drama outreach by 10B Schools Ipoh 6th form. We staged Shakespearean drama. We had an itinerant Shakespearean drama team attached to the 6th form, and they performed at various schools. It was a great thriller of an experience. And for many schools where students are not aware of Shakespeare, they saw drama in action, not Shakespeare in its original language, but Shakespeare in modern simplified English, spiced with local names, right there. Instead of King Lear, he's called Abang Lear. That's an example, right there. Julius Caesar, his name is changed to Julius Caesar Khan. This has more local spice and appeal. And this is how we brought Shakespeare to the schools. It was a tremendous experience. And we all enjoyed it and learned much. And we opened the interest in Shakespeare in many hearts. And finally, fellowship visits to the Home for the Aged Kampung Simi. Over the years, I've brought many groups, particularly from St. Michael's and 10B Schools Ipoh, to pay fellowship visits so that the children will learn to see that there is suffering, there is misery outside the comfort of their own homes, and that we can do a lot to alleviate the sufferings, sadness of others, to bring joy to others. Let's put it more positively. So these are 4 key programs which I value and I hope will be sustained in the years to come. I think I will spell the word out for you. Hope it doesn't shock you too much. It is F-I-R-E. F-I-R-E. Fire. I choose the word fire because it is a great symbol. A symbol of education and success. First of all, there is pain. Pain. There can be no success without sacrifice. And you have got to burn and destroy things which are blocking your success in your life. You have to do some self-burning. Next, you must give light. What you are studying, what you are doing in the world must be beneficial to others. So, only a life lived for others is worth living, said Albert Einstein. That is his formula for success. And fire gives light to the rest of the world. And third, fire is inspiration. Is inspiration from ancient times at holy altars. People burn fire to worship God. So, worship of God is inseparable from any success in your life. Without that, there can be no inspiration in the world. So I think I will leave it at that. Fire meaning destruction of all that is evil in ourselves. Number two, service to others. It must give what we learn and what we do must give light to others. And finally, there must be the inspiration of God. Fire in worship, fire as an element in worship symbolizes our worship of God. Thank you.